In this video, we are going to focus on linear relationships on the Cartesian plane. A mathematical rule is an efficient way of describing a relationship between two variables. When a table and a graph are limited by the number of points they show, a rule can be used to find any value of y for any given x value quickly. A rule must be true for every pair of coordinates, x and y, in a table or graph. So we are finding the rule of the table of values. This is the table of values here. Our question is find the rule for the table of values below. So we have to figure out the rule that gets us these answers in the row y. So the first thing we have to do is look at the increase or decrease along row y. And I can see it goes up 3 every time. This is the coefficient of x. It is a constant number used for all rules created from the table, and it reads as 3x. So I'll put that there, 3x. So when we figure this out to try and create our rule, that number 3 is going to start. And this 3x means 3 multiplied by x. So we go 3, multiplication symbol. The first value of x is -2. I now go 3 times -2 is -6. What do I have to do to get to -8? I have to subtract 2, and that will give me -8. If I try the second one here, again I start with 3. I multiply by the value of x, which is -1. 3 times -1 is -3. What do I have to do to get to -5? I have to subtract 2, and that gives me -5. I'll do another one. 3 times x, the value of x this time is 0. 3 times 0 is 0. What do I have to do to get to -2? I have to subtract 2, and that gives me -2. So I can see there's a pattern here, this subtraction of 2. So if I'm going to write my rule, this is what I have to write. 3x, meaning 3 times x, the value at the top, minus 2. So this is the rule, and I've been able to figure that out by following those calculations. Let's now focus on a worded question. It says the initial volume of water in a dish is 300 milliliters. The water evaporates and the volume of water decreases by 50 milliliters per hour for 6 hours. Part A, display this data in a table of values using T for time in hours and V for volume in milliliters. Alright, so they want T for time and V for volume. So we've done that now, and now we have to complete it. We know that it was for 6 hours. So we have to start at 0 because we don't have 1 hour straight up. We have 0, and then we gradually get up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 hours. We also know that we start at 300 milliliters at 0 hours, and it decreases by 50 milliliters per hour. So I'm putting that into the table now. And by 6 hours we have nothing. So we have now completed the table of values. We are now going to write the rule for the table of values here. The first thing we have to do is find the coefficient. This is how much it increases or decreases between this V row. So I know that we decrease by 50, so -50, and that's our milliliters, because we are told that we actually lose 50 milliliters each time the hour ticks over. So I know that that really means -50t. So I'm going to apply that to this. So let's have a look. We start with -50. Now we have to multiply that by t, and we're going to work on this one here. So that is a 0. So -50 multiplied by 0 gives us 0. What do we have to do to achieve the answer of 300? We have to add 300 on. Let's see if we can get that to work for the next one. So we're now moving into T being 1 and V being 250. Again, we start with negative 50 and we multiply that by the T. So that is 1. And if we add 300 on, we will achieve the answer of 250. So our first one equaled 300 and our next one is equaling 250. So basically this answer here is in the red and the calculations to achieve it are before it. So I'll just quickly go through this again. Our coefficient, this is the jump between the answers, is negative 50 millilitres. So that becomes negative 50t. We then go negative 50 multiply the value of t, which is 0, and we get 0. Then we've got to think, what do we have to do to get the answer of 300? We have to add 300, and that will give us the 300. Because negative 50 multiplied by 0 is 0, plus 300 equals 300. If we then look at the second one here, okay, still using this negative 50 multiplied by t. So we start with negative 50, we multiply by the value of t, which is 1, and we get negative 50. What do we have to do to get the answer of 250? We have to add 300. If I keep doing this, the only thing that's going to change is this here, and that's the value of t. This answer down the side here will reflect these. So I can create a rule from this, and I'm going to write it over here. So V equals, so the volume equals negative 50 t, because this is where I got it from here, negative 50 t, negative 50 multiplied by t, the value of t. And then you'll notice that every time we add 300. And that is our rule. If I use this rule, I will be able to calculate each and every one of those answers in V. Question C now asks us to draw a graph by plotting the points given in the table. I've already set this up. So we have the time for hours at the bottom and the volume in milliliters up on the side there. So this is our x-axis and our y-axis. We always tend to put time down the bottom here on the x-axis and volumes very common up on the y-axis. So we know that we started at 300 milliliters and we also ended up with none at 6 hours. So on the 0 hour, before we start, we have 300. By the 6th hour, we have none. So we know there's a 50 milliliter decrease, so we should have a nice straight steady line coming down to the bottom here. So looking at the first one in our table, at 0 hours, we had 300 milliliters. By the first hour, we dropped 50 milliliters. So we go halfway between the 200 and the 300. And we plot our point there. On the second hour, we were down to 200 milliliters. On the third hour, we dropped down another 50 milliliters and we ended up at 150. On the fourth hour, we came down to 100 milliliters. And then on the fifth hour, again, we dropped another 50 milliliters. By the time we reached hour 6, we had nothing in there. So this should be nice and straight. Mine isn't that straight. So you should be able to draw a line connecting all the dots all the way down to the bottom there on 6 hours. So with a consistent steady decrease of minus 50, this line should be straight. If you're plotting and it's not straight, it means that you've made a miscalculation in your table of values. And again, you know, any graph should have a title, so make sure you put a title at the top of your graph and make sure that all your axes are labelled correctly and all your numbers are labelled according to the table of values. Let's now take a look at question D. It says use your rule to find the volume of water in the dish after 4.2 hours in the sun. So our rule here is negative 50t plus 300. We can use this rule to calculate any volume up to 6 hours because after 6 hours there is no water left in the dish. So first of all, we write the rule and we go V equals for volume because we're being asked to find out the volume of water after this particular time. So V equals, and we go negative 50t plus 300. So we simply start with our rule. On the second line working down underneath, we then have to substitute the value of t. And the value of t for hours is 4.2. And remember, it's multiply because in between here is an invisible multiplication symbol. And then we simply drop down the plus 300. When we calculate this, we would put it into our calculator. But order of operations tells us to multiply first, get that answer, then add the 300. The answer that we do get is 90 millilitres. So you can see between 4 and 5 hours we have 150 mil. Now 4.2 hours shows us that 90 millilitres does fall between there, so we are correct in our calculations. And it deserves a therefore statement for the answer because it is a worded question, so I'm going to write this very tiny. Therefore, the volume of water after 4.2 hours is 90 millilitres. Ooh, almost ran out of room there. So, as you can see here, we have our rule, our substitution, our answer, and our therefore statement because a worded question must have a worded answer. Let's take a look at this last question E here. It says, use your rule to find the time taken for the volume to reach 75 millilitres. So I'm going to use the rule straight away, but I'm going to say volume equals negative 50t plus 300. And the reason I'm saying volume equals is because I'm given the volume measurement. And if I didn't start with this V equals and then followed by substituting this in, I wouldn't really know how to go about this question. So now second line of substitution is 75, that's replacing the V, equals, and I simply drop the rest of it down because I can't make any more substitutions, there's no more information in the question. Now we do need to find out the time taken for it to reach 75 millilitres. Now we have to look at that as a linear equation in order to solve that. So we have a number and a pronumeral and another number. The automatic reaction for most of us is to start on the 75 because we want letters on the left and numbers on the right. But if I do that, I eliminate something on this side of the equal sign and simply just leave this here. And that's not going to work for us. So I have to start with this positive 300. So the opposite of positive 300 is negative 300. And what I do to one side, I must do to the other. Now we know that 300 minus 300 cancels out to 0. If I solve 75 minus 300, I get a negative 225. And I simply drop down the 50t. This is actually switched back to front at this point in time. Normally you see the letters on the left, numbers on the right, but that's okay because we can flip it around at the end. So we look at this with the pronumeral and we go, what's the opposite of multiplication? Because it's a multiplication situation, and it is division, so we put fraction lines underneath both sides and put the number next to the pronumeral under as the denominator, and we give it to both sides because what you do to one side you must do to the other. Let's cancel and solve here. Negative 50 divided by negative 50 is 0. Well, actually, sorry, it's 1. I should say it's 1. But it cancels out to 0. And we simply drop the t down. And this one here, we go negative 225 divided by negative 50. And we get an answer of 4.5. And now we can flip this around and go t equals 4.5. Because we're working in hours, it would be an answer with hours. We can't forget our units. And I've run out of space here, but because it's a worded question, it has to have a worded answer. So you could put, therefore, it took 4.5 hours to reach 75 millilitres.